All right. Thank you very, very much. I'm excited to come your way again this evening. I think for the past 2 or 3 hours, I've been on live, but on replay, trying to play a few of our episodes in the past. And I thought it would be wise to come and have a proper engagement with our followers. I think over the past week, I've been trying to engage more with our audience online. So I've been trying to engage more with our followers online just to get to know you much more and have a proper engagement with you. So today I'm jumping on here to do a recap of a few of the stories we've done in the past and have a conversation about fathers, about dads, and about men. And I'll be excited for us all to chip in. At some point, I'm going to bring a few people who will be interested to come on to share their experiences with their parents, especially with their dads growing up. And then we'll do a few highlights on the importance of fathers or the importance of men in the lives of children. So I'll be happy for you to stay much longer so that we'll be able to have more fun today. Thank you very much, Solomon, for joining. When I see you, I'm going to appreciate you and try and mention your name just so that you feel part of the conversation. So my name is Sheila, if you're meeting me for the first time. And I'm the host of Podcast with Sheila, the podcast that is spreading positivity around the world by sharing inspiring life experiences. Today, I'm streaming on 3 devices. So we are on TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube. So I'll be excited for the engagement to be so clean, lovely, and nice so that we can keep this going as much as possible. It's always a privilege to talk about what we do and to talk about Podcast with Sheila to our new audience, just so that anybody who is watching us for the first time at least get to know what we're about and what we do. Please, if you come on to support us, if you don't mind sharing the live, if you don't mind sharing the live, just so that people will know that we are up and running, because we don't do live. We've just started doing live. So it's a bit new to most of our followers, but I believe that if you share it, more people will get to know. And because it isn't something we do regularly, we don't have a specific time at the moment coming on live. So we may be coming in as and when we can. And currently I can do it a bit more because I'm on break from work. So that gives me the liberty of time to get to know our followers, and likewise our followers get to know me. So thank you very much for your time. I know time is of essence. Let's kick right into it. So this platform started in 2020, that's so the COVID period, and that gave us the opportunity to sit down, reflect on our lives, and all of us get creative. And that is where we got creative with Podcast with Sheila. So Podcast with Sheila is one of my many babies. And I think just around the time COVID started, I had personally come out of a tragic situation where I nearly lost my life. And I remember on my bed, hospital bed, I've said it so many times, I said that when I come out of the situation alive, I was going to be sharing my story. So when I came out of this situation, I started sharing my story. And from time to time, people got to know of it and they decided to start sharing their stories as well. So this is where we've come over the years. I think I have personal stories I've shared, about 20 or 30 episodes. I'm not too sure, but that is the season 1 of Podcast with Sheila. Then we went on to season 2, where guests will come on the platform and share their stories. So far, I've hosted 88 guests all around the world, from the US to the UK, Canada, Uganda, Ghana, Nigeria, all around the world. I can't remember all of them, but we've had loads of guests coming from all around the world. And I'm going to go through a few of the episodes we've done in the past just to whip up your interest and to get you to go and listen to some of our stories if you've not done that yet, or if you've not done that before. So I think the first story we did of any of our guests, of our first guest, we had talked about struggles breeds golden opportunity. So this particular guest has shared a story where she was abused by her stepdad. So I wouldn't go into details, but if that story is something of interest to you or something you can relate with, or you know somebody who would be able to relate to it, you can share that link with them. If you click on, I think I have links on all of our social media pages. So our YouTube link will be somewhere around this platform. You can click on it and it will take you there, and you'll be able to see or listen to some of these stories we've shared in the past. Thank you very, very much, everybody who is joining in. I'm seeing you all, because I don't have a moderator. Oh, pin your goals so that, trust me, I'm going. Okay, let me pin it. Thank you very much, whoever suggested that. Thank you so much. So I've pinned my goals. I don't think it's that high, but because it's for our first time, so I've pinned it. Hopefully we'll be able to make 10 roses before we leave, hopefully, and 50 stars. I don't know how that's possible, but let's see. So thank you very much, everybody who's joined in. Please, as you join me on, especially on TikTok, because that gives us the opportunity to be able to click and bring in more people. Please do that, and then let's get more people in. I'm giving you a wave on Instagram now. Thank you very much, everybody who's joined in. So, like I was saying, our first story was the lady who had done shared with us her story on struggle breeds golden opportunities, and I think she had shared with us how she was abused by her her stepdad, and how that affected her growing up. And I think when she was abused, her mom didn't believe it, that she was telling her the story. She was telling her the truth. So they didn't take her seriously. She's had to deal with it silently. And at some point, I think she was able to speak out. So the man was taken in custody. But she has also shared with us that as she grew up and started her family, she heard that the man was released from prison without her knowledge. At the moment, I may not be able to bring anybody in, so please pardon me if I don't bring you in yet. But at some point, I'm going to bring somebody in to share their stories with us after I've gone in further a little bit with this live. But please pardon me for now, just so that we can get things going before we bring anybody in to share their story, please. I'm so grateful to you all for coming and joining me here on live. Thank you very much for the likes and everything else. So that is for the first story we did. The second story was a lady who had come on to share her story about having her first child who quote unquote disabled, and the struggles she'd had to deal with having a gift like that. And she had also come on to empower mothers who have situations like that on how to get it going and some of the challenges that you would have to face. But for her, she's been able to overcome it. So she had said in that story that set your boundaries. And when you set the boundaries, make sure that you stick to those boundaries and don't let anybody make you pull those boundaries down. Thank you very much, everybody who is joining me so much. I appreciate it very, very much. Then we had gone on to do another story that says make the right decisions in life. So this was by another lady who had come in to talk about her relationship with her husband that had to come to an end. So she had gone through divorce, how she's dealt with it. So there's been various stories of people who had come on to share their stories, how they've dealt with at some point in time when they were going through challenges in life, and the decisions they made to be able to go through it successfully. And basically, that is what Podcast with Sheila is about anyway. It's for people to come on board to share their stories, because as you share your story, it's a form of healing to yourself, and it's also somebody's answer to whatever they are going through. So we all need each other. And at some point in life, everybody's going through a phase, everybody's going through something. But as we listen to each other, then we are able to learn from each other's experience, what they did at a point in time where they were, and how they've been able to come out from there with that. Okay, so we'd gone from there, making the right decision to marry yourself. So someone had come on to share why it's important for us to marry ourselves, and what she meant at the time when she said marry yourself was to take care of yourself, to love yourself. I think when she had sent me the story and she said she wanted to talk about marry yourself, I was a bit skeptical, thinking, what was that? So I think my first question I asked her was, what was that about? And she had explained that marry yourself means take care of yourself, love yourself first. And I think she had explained that when you love yourself first, then you will be able to love others, because you have to be in the right position to be able to give out love. If you don't have love, you cannot give out love. So that was it for her on marry yourself. Then we went on to the lady who had ramped up 20 awards in 2021. And I think that for me was very, very commendable, because in 2021, it's like the whole of the world was on shutdown. We were all on lockdown, kind of. But during that period, she was able to make 20 awards, and she had told us how she was able to do that. So most of these stories we shared, I believe not most, like all of them are very, very inspiring, because the aim is to spread positivity around the world. The aim is to let people know that whatever they are going through at the moment, somebody's been there, and also throw more light on what you can do to come out of whatever situation it is. Like this, the sayings goes that when life throws lemons at you, make lemonades out of it. So that kind of thing is what we aim to do. And I'm so excited to say that it's been great. It's been good. The guests we've had so far are guests who are willing to share exactly what happened and share it all out, not hiding anything, share the process they've gone through to be able to come out from the other side and all of that. Thank you very much, everybody who is currently online listening to me. I'll be very, very grateful if you can share it to a few more people so that we can have more people coming on board as well. Please, when you come on, please tap on your screen, especially on TikTok, as is the thing that is done, so that we can get a lot more people joining in. So then I think from the lady who had ramped up the 20 awards, we then went on to the Innovative Woman. And this is one of the ladies I love so much. I think when I recorded this interview with her, there was so much banter, so much rapport. There was a lot to talk about. So for that reason, we had a part 1 and a part 2 of this particular episode of the Innovative Woman. This woman happened to be one of Ghana's most beautiful. I hope I'm right. I think Ghana's most beautiful. I'm not sure if it's Ghana's most beautiful, but she was a beauty pageant. I think she won. She's a beauty queen, actually. I think in 2000, I'm not too sure, 2008 or one of those. So sorry, I cannot accept anybody to join me live now on video, but at some point I'll be able to bring you on board. Like I said earlier, I'll be happy for us to share more on the main topic for the period when we get there. But for now, it's more of me talking about our episodes and what Podcast with Sheila is about and how we've come over the years. All right. So yes, like I was saying, this lady had come on to talk about the work she's doing for women in the rural parts of Ghana. So I think she has a financial service where she gives small loans and grants to women who would like to start up small businesses of their own. And like I said, we had a lot to talk about because I seem to resonate with what she does. I do similar things here as well. So that kind of lined up with my area of work, and we're able to talk about. So she had brought us up from where she won as the beauty queen for Ghana during that year, and how things had turned out for her good, or how she had used that position as a Miss Ghana to work things out for her, start a business. She had gone off to work in Nigeria, gone off to work in some other parts of the country, in African countries, in top positions, come back to Ghana, set up her business, and decided to be helping women establish themselves and earn money and help their families thrive. So that story is there as well. Then we went on to the New Me. So the New Me is a Filipino. I think a Filipino had interviewed who had moved from the Philippines now to Germany, if I remember quite, because it's been years back. I think it's this story I'm talking about. It's been 2 years ago. So I've picked it up from the very first, from the bottom, coming up to where we are now. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do all the stories. I'm doing about 10 of them. So I've done about 7 now. I'm left with, I'm on the 7th one. I'm left with 2 more ones. So the New Me is this lady who had come from the Philippines to now currently living in Germany. And she said while she was in the Philippines, she worked in a bank. She lived the luxury life, the life that everybody would want to live. But at some point, she felt that wasn't her. She felt she needed to turn things around. She was the glamour girl, if you would call her, the type of woman who would always buy and want to look good. And at some point realized that wasn't her, wanted to turn her whole life around. And she had also explained how she had been able to go through that process. Now in Germany, trying to do her master's and living life afresh. Then we had gone on to the Determination is Key. Now, at this point, because I've written the topics down, I'm trying to remember what the story is around Determination is Key. I can't really remember. So I'm going to go on to Keeping a Gratitude Journal That Changed My Life. So I think this lady had gone on to say that she didn't marry early because she never met the kind of man she wanted, or she wasn't meeting the right person, kind of. So she didn't marry early. I think she said she married very late in her 30s, when she was 35 years old. But she remembers that as she kept on living her life, even though marriage came very late to her, she was always journaling her life, hoping that every time she'll be able to check off whatever she's journaled. And she emphasize the importance of journaling your life and then trying to put your life in order and work towards meeting your goals. So that is another thing. I think I'm going to wrap up here on all the episodes we've done and quickly move on into the topic for the day, or the reason why I'm here today. And we are talking about where are the men. So I've titled this one, Where Are the Men? Where are the dads? And this is where I would like everybody else to chip in. I'm going to share my experience with my dad growing up, and I would also like some of us to share their experience with their dads growing up, as well as anybody who, for some reason, didn't have to have a father figure in their lives, also share their experience together. We're going to emphasize the importance of fathers, or of the father in the home. Both of us, all of us, will emphasize the importance of that, and hopefully together. For me, the aim is always to make a step towards change. And I always say that together, you and I will make the world a better place. So thank you very much for still staying with me up till now. And before we kick right into today's topic, can we share the live a bit more so that we can have more people joining in? I know that this is not a terrain for us, if I should say. So it's not something we do mostly, so people will get to know us as we go along. Can you please tap on your screen so we can get more people coming in? First case, I'm very sorry I may not be able to bring you in now, but at some point, if you keep staying with us, I may be able to bring you in so that you have the opportunity to share your story with us as much as possible. Okay, so I had the privilege to grow up in a family where I had my mom and my dad at home with us. I lost my dad 2 years ago. He was very ill over a long period, and finally God called him, and that was it. But growing up, I think my childhood memories, everything I remember was what I'll say every child will dream of. My dad worked as an engineer. So my dad worked as an engineer. Most of the time he would go on treks, but he would come back home. At some point in his life, he came on pension and wasn't traveling too much, so was more at home. He retired as a florist. No, he retired as an engineer, and then he didn't want to stay home because I remember very well, he said, if I stay home and I don't do anything, I'll die early. So then he went into floristry. So he became a florist. He had a big flower garden in the house, and that kept bringing people in. So it kept him interacting with people. But I remember growing up, my dad was very, very strict. One of those African parents who are too strict, you can't even imagine. And it's 4 of us children. So my brother, the eldest, then me and 2 other siblings. So it's 3 girls and 1 boy. And I can imagine why he had to be very, very stern on us and wouldn't allow people come around anyhow. So it was a big family. It was a very big house. And my mom had gone in to bring her siblings with us. And my father was strict on everybody around. And for my dad, whenever you go out, so as we grew up, whenever you go out, you had to be in the house by 6 p.m. You cannot be any late. And I remember one time I had gone out. I think the first time I had a boyfriend, I brought him home to show my parents. No, not to show my dad, because there was no way I was ever going to show my boyfriend to my dad. He wouldn't even see any light of it. But I brought him home and introduced him to my mom. And then he said he was going to take me out on a date. So he had picked me up from the house. My dad didn't know he had picked me up. My mom knew. And we went on a date. And on that date, I remember very well, I met my father's sister at the hotel. So it was like a restaurant. We had gone to the restaurant. My father's sister had come there with her husband to have dinner. And I was also sitting in the far corner. I was sitting at the far corner with this guy. And the moment they entered, I saw her. So I was trying to hide behind the menu, not knowing she had already seen me. So she sat down for a while. And I think about 10 minutes in, she walked up to my table and she said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I said I was fine, but I knew straight away she was going to tell my dad she had seen me. And I was dreading to go back home. And I remember because of that, we didn't stay that long out. I had to go home. And even with that, my dad was angry. So I remember when I knocked on the gate and my sisters opened the door, it was as if he was waiting for me to come in. He said, "Who is at the gate?" And then I mentioned my name. He said, "Come in here." So I had to go into his room. And he said, "Are you a lady?" And I said, "Yes." He said, what's the time? I believe you have a watch on. I said, "Yes." "What is your watch saying? What time does it say? Then I said 7 o'clock. Is that the right time for a lady to come home when they go out? And I didn't feel at that point, because I was in the university, I was in first year. So I didn't feel at that point that going out and coming in at 7 p.m. was a problem. But my emphasis here is those were some of the things that checked us. When anytime I stepped out, I knew my dad was there. And when I come home, I have to explain to him. And those were some of the things that checked us. And I couldn't go out messing around. And like I said, as my dad came on pension, he had a flower garden, and the flower garden was in front of the house. And that was where he was always seated. So anytime you are going out of the house, you pass by him. He's seated there reading his newspaper and listening to the radio. So anytime you go out, you pass by him. So as you walk out and you're coming back, he's going to see you. And at the back of my head, I'm thinking, if I go out and mess up, if I'm walking past him, he's going to see through me and he'll start questioning me. So those were some of the things I remember that checked me growing up. And I also remember something particular about my dad. He made it very obvious. So I got to know that I was his favorite. And that caused problems for me growing up amongst my siblings. But for me, I think there was a bond I had with my dad. And I know that these are some of the things every child would like to have with their dad. When I was growing up, I had a tummy problem, and this kept coming all the time. And we didn't know what it was, but from time to time, I'll just have a severe tummy ache, a very severe one. And I'd have to take pain reliefs and other things for it to go away. We didn't know we'd been to the hospital and all that. Nobody knew what it was, but it was something I had to deal with until I started having children. I didn't have them anymore. But I remember anytime I had those episodes, my dad would be by my bed throughout. And because I was named after his mom, he would say, "Oh, my mom, don't be sick," and stuff like that. So those were some of the memories I remember of my dad. And when I look at him all the time, I see a lot of hope. And I see that he wants me to do well in life. So all of those, I have them at the back of my mind. And anytime I step out of the house and I think I have the freedom to do something, I check myself and know where my limit is with my freedom, because I don't want to do anything to disappoint him. And these are some of the things. And I always looked at my dad as, I don't want to say that I looked at him as somebody, as an image of a husband I'd like to have in the future. But I think finally the man I married has a lot of traits of my father as well. And that makes us bond some more. But basically, some of the things I can talk about with my dad is a lot if you ask me. And the reason why I want us to talk about where are the men and where are the dads is because lately we don't have most of these dads present at home. Most of the children we are raising them up as mothers alone. And I remember, I think the episode I did before, so the episode 88, the episode 87 before the 88 that is running, I'd interviewed another woman called Farah, I think Farah Fletcher. Farah is an Indian currently living in Dubai, is a banker, and she had shared with us how she was born in the UK, all right, but she was taken to India and was never brought back. And I think whilst she was there, she realized that her parents had divorced, and that meant that they had to stay in India. And she didn't like the idea of being born in the UK, taken back into India, and had to stay there. So I think she became a difficult child growing up. And she had emphasized that her dad was not in their life. The man didn't want to be part of their life. Even when her mom died, the father still didn't want to be part of their lives. And I think that affected her a lot more growing up. And that's the reason why I want us to talk about some of these things. And social media remembers, it doesn't forget. So I believe that whilst we talk about some of these things, it will still be on air and somebody may chance on it. If somebody happens to find themselves as a father to a child and have shared their responsibilities and currently not assuming their position as a father, we pray that they would listen to some of these things and will be able to turn around and assume their positions as fathers. Or if you know somebody who have just abandoned their children, I believe that you should be able to be a positive voice to them in the kindest of way for them to go back and take care of these children. For me, what I always say is that these children were never asked to be born. They were never asked to be born. And another thing is it takes two to tango. So it's not just the woman's responsibility. Pardon me, I'm not talking for women, but I'm just talking in general, and the trend of things we see now where women have been tagged more as single moms. And I think that is becoming the thing of the day. Recently, the lady I was talking about said it shouldn't be single moms. It should rather be absentee dads, because it looks like the mothers are being tagged. And when you go into gatherings and societies and stuff like that, these women have a tag on them and are being looked at. It's no fault of theirs. It's no fault of anybody's. And I'm not here to talk about somebody's relationship or anything like that. No, that is not my business. My emphasis here is on the children. And like I was saying, the children were not asked to be born. So if they are here, is our right, is our responsibility for us to provide them with the care, the support, the love, the attention, and everything else they need. And we shouldn't leave them to the messes of the world to struggle, because I say that if for some reason you didn't find yourself in that position, you shouldn't put someone in that position. And if for any reason you found yourself in that position, then you might have experienced what it meant for you not to have a father figure in your life, and you know definitely that it didn't go well, it wasn't right. So we shouldn't repeat the pattern. We should at some point try and cut off this kind of trend that is going on, where the men are always leaving the homes and knowing that the women would definitely take care of their children, so they just pick their bags and off they are gone, hopefully to start another family somewhere and to do good. But I'm always saying that what happens to the other children you've left back home? Definitely the woman will take care of them, because every time she wakes up, she sees the children, she sees the needs of the children, she's burdened by it. And I believe that everybody who, has a humane character, or what I mean, will definitely feel the plight of the children and will do something about it, obviously. But that doesn't mean that because the women will do it, the men should always be up and gone. If anybody here is at this point willing to share the experience with your dad, I'll be excited to bring you in at this point. I think a few more people wanted to come on live straight away, but because I was talking, I wasn't able to bring them in. Yeah, I'm reading from Ivy. And I think it says that it's not just about the men living, it's about the responsibility of step parents stepping up. If you ask me, well, if you talk about step parents, I'm currently a step parent. I'm a step parent because my husband had children before he married me. But fortunately, my stepchildren are a bit older than me. And I think growing up, I've always heard that step parents are mean. Step parents are mean. And when I found myself in that position, I wanted to get it right, because the last thing I needed was to be called a mean stepmom. That was the last thing I needed, as a last tag I needed against my name. So I've tried to do right by my stepchildren. And I can say that unless something else is going on, they've not told me, but I see that there's a bond there. It's not easy. If you ask me, it's not easy, because these are children who are grown. They are not like, some of them are done with university, working already in their main jobs, second, third jobs, doing very, very well. These are grown children. They have a mind of their own. They have their own thinking. And it's difficult when you have to deal with them, but everybody's unique. And at the back of my mind, everybody's unique. I just come in to do my duty as a stepmom. When they are around here, I cook, I clean, I serve, I have chats with them. We talk about life, school, those in the university, those working. When I have the opportunity to do that, I do that. But I hear most of the time that step parents are not nice. And from my first-hand experience, this is how best I've been able to do it, because so far, none of my stepchildren have disrespected me. So it doesn't give me a cause for me to build up barriers or for me to be mean or anything like that. And from the general sense of it, I deal with people all the time. So I believe that has also helped me a lot to know that people are different. It's helped me respect people's differences and help me respect people's boundaries and know when to poke my nose and not. So it's helped me to, shape my life around them properly. So yeah, that is a bit about stepmoms. But if you ask me, it's not the step parents' responsibility. You get it? Let me put it right. It's not the step parents' first-hand responsibility to take care of the child, especially if their main parents are alive. Let me put it again. So let's say in my case, if my stepchildren's mom is not alive, then I assume total responsibility of the children as their mom. I stand to be corrected, but then I assume total responsibility. Even with that, I still assume total responsibility once they are under my care. So once they're under this roof, I assume total responsibility. But when they are not here, from time to time, I call to check on them. So what I'm saying is, if the other parent is around, they should take their responsibility, because they are the direct parents of them, and not to share all the responsibility to the step parent. Because remember, I have children of my own. So obviously, I'm burdened by my children's needs as well. So I'm going to try to do my best by all of them. But that doesn't mean that because I have now stepped in, it becomes my total responsibility, and everything else has to be left for me to handle. So I totally agree with you, Ivy, that the step parents is about the step parents' responsibility as well. But unless I'm wrong, but this is my own knowledge and my own experience I can share, but anyone else can come up with their experience. I'll be very happy to read it out, and I'll be very happy to bring someone on board if they are willing to share their experience with their dad growing up or with their step parents growing up. It's just about learning from each other. Basically, nobody is right. It's just about learning from each other. And if we share something here and you think that it makes sense and it actually addresses to a situation, then definitely we'll be happy to take it on board and use it as part of our lives growing up. So I'm happy for us to listen to anybody here. We don't have too many people on TikTok, neither do we have too many people on Instagram as well. So I believe that if we tap a lot more, we can have more people come on and make this chat a bit more fun. But I have, like I said, I had grown up without having to live with anyone else, let alone live with a step parent. I've not lived with anyone else apart from my parents, not even lived with my sister, my aunties, or anyone else. So it was difficult growing up. I've made a lot of mistakes because I lived a very shielded life. And my mom will hardly, like I was saying, they'll hardly allow you go out to even make mistakes and know how to correct them. So I lived a very, very shielded life. Now, as I grew up as an adult, I've had to make a lot of mistakes because I wouldn't even be able to figure out when somebody means harm. You get it? So I've had to fall in the traps of I've had to fall in a lot of traps for me to learn how to navigate my way out of it. And I don't think it's the best to do. And it isn't something I'm looking forward to do with my children. I would very much love them to explore the world, make their mistakes, and then make their corrections. And that is the only way we learn for me. So I have to do a lot of learning growing up in these few years as an adult, as a mom, as a wife. I've had to learn how to do a lot of things because of the kind of upbringing I had. But I think that is not easy living with somebody who is not a direct relation. I remember the last time one of my stepchildren who had just met me for the first time and couldn't accept that I was his stepmom said I wasn't part of the family. And I'm not supposed to be sharing this, but because it's on live and will definitely be there. I believe my husband's going to see it. But things like that, some of these things, these are differences we get to meet all the time. And some of these things, when you hear them, you have to learn to adjust, to accept, to live by it and move past that, especially if you're an adult and you're dealing with a child. No matter how old the child is, children are still children, and they'll have to at any point learn to accept you for who you are. I remember he said she's not part of the family, and I heard it, and a bit of me felt pained, but I think he's grown to accept and all of that. But some of these things are very, very difficult. But for me, the emphasis here is on dads. I hear that sometimes some moms also leave their children and then bolt up, but most of the time you hear that the dads have left their children in the care of their moms and they are gone. And these children have had to suffer. Quite recently, there was a story that had come out in Ghana. I'm Ghanaian, so I follow the Ghanaian news, even though I'm not in Ghana currently, but I follow the Ghanaian news. And there's this popular lady in Ghana. So she happens to be a star, and most of you might have heard of it if you're Ghanaians. And I think she had written her memoir, and in the memoir had stated that she wanted to meet her dad. And this is a 35-year-old lady who is doing so well. Somebody will say, why are you still looking for your dad at this age? You're doing well. You have a good job. You have your child. You have your house. You have things in place. What are you still looking for a dad for? And this tells us that the father figure in our lives is very, very important, no matter how we look at it. And sometimes some of us women are very, very pained, and then we'll say we don't care. But then these children need the fathers in in the house. And I remember she had stated in her book that when she was young, she would always envy the little children who were picked by their fathers. And she would see the father bond with the father and daughter, or father and children bond, and she longed for it. All of these things. Sometimes when you don't find yourself in that situation, you don't know how important that is. And I remember I posted on one of the social media pages about this particular thing I'm talking about, and somebody came with a laughing emoji, laughing all out, when I said that it's important for men to be in the lives of their children. But it is definitely important for men to be in the lives of their children. Sometimes as women, because of one thing or the other, and because we're not together with the man, we may try to say we can do it on our own, that kind of thing. Yeah, definitely, most of us will be able to do it on our own. But whatever it is, you still need the man. You still need the man. Yeah, in African culture, this issue of inheritance is more hurtful to children, especially stepchildren. Exactly. The issue of inheritance in the African culture is another thing, to think about, So yeah, I get it from where you're coming from, because I know that some parts of Ghana, if I'm right, I think the Ashanti part of it, I know if there's the Akan bit of Ghana tribe. I think that the man's brother inherits all of the man's property. So my husband's brother will inherit all of his properties when he dies. I think something like that. Either my husband's nephew. Yes, exactly. My husband's nephew will inherit all of his properties. When stepchildren who think stepfathers are their true fathers, and they break their hearts. Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah. That is another thing to think about. But the thing is, for me, what is systems, and the way we put them, and the way we shape our life. This goes to do with a lot of things. I'm going to try and explain this properly. I hope I get it right. But it's the way we are psyched up growing up. What are all these boundaries? Stepsisters, stepchildren, children, father, the main child. I believe that once you find them under your umbrella, they become your child. Let's take the step out and see all of them as children. Let's treat each other humanly. And what I continue to say on this platform is, do unto others what you want others to do unto you. Now we forget that as we do, culture, shame, all cause distress. It's very, very distressful. I totally agree with you. It's very, very distressful. Once we see differences, that is what makes life difficult. Oh no, this is not my child, this one is my child, this is my step, this one is my real child, this is my, once we see the differences, when we put differences in there, that makes life very, very difficult for all of us. It's the same way as when we see this as white, Caucasian, black. This is the systems of life, and it always makes life difficult. I don't believe in division. I believe that we see all of us the same. We are all human beings. And that is what we have to have at the back of our mind. And for me, I live by, if I'm doing it to you, if you're doing it to me and I don't like it, I shouldn't be doing it to you. So I always say that, do unto others what you want others to do unto you. So as a stepfather, because life can change at the snap of a finger. Today it will be your child. Tomorrow your child will be a stepchild somewhere. So if you're maltreating somebody's child because you think that the child is not your direct child, now touch wood, but what if your child finds themselves in that situation? What then are you going to say? You get it? So I think that whatever situation we find ourselves, we should try and do right by it. We should try and be good. We should try and live the life such that when we are no more, people will be able to say good about us. Indeed, I totally agree with you, Ivy. I totally, totally agree with you. Is all of us having it at the back of our minds that whatever you don't want to be done to you, don't do it to your fellow person. In whatever situation we find ourselves, whether in marriage, whether in taking care of other people's children, whether in the office, in our general lives, whatever it is, if you're doing it to me, and if I'm doing it to you and you wouldn't like it, I shouldn't expect that somebody else is going to do it differently to me. They're definitely going to. So whatever you dish out, you get it back. That kind of thing. So I believe that if we live our lives that way, then all of us, we will enjoy this world. And like I would always say in my conclusion, when I'm concluding in Podcast with Sheila, that together you and I will make the world a better place. It's about changing our mindset and the way we think, that kind of thing, the way we think. The kind of children we are bringing up are going to be our next generation. If we want the world to be a better place, it depends on you and I. What I'm telling my children at home, what you're telling your children at home, what you expect of them to do. You get it? We are growing today, we are growing a social media kind of children. Children are learning a lot from social media. And as parents, if we don't guide some of these things, those are the children we'll be having in future, because people will be training them for us. The social media will be training them for us. And there's a lot of rubbish on social media. And especially in this case, if it's just the case of the mother taking care of her children, then it becomes a big responsibility, especially when the woman has to go out, work, pay bills, and will have to do all of this at the same time. It's very, very difficult. That is why we are saying today and emphasizing that wherever the fathers are, they should also chip in and try and help us raise these children so that we can have a great and a better generation going forward. Maybe 10 years to come, we may not be here. Maybe we may be here. Whatever it is, it starts from us. If we look at what is going around the world today, I'm not entirely happy about it. And I believe that wherever you are, you're not entirely happy about it too. But it depends on all of us to try and turn this around for our children and make the world a much better place before we finally exit from the world. It depends on you and I. What are we telling them? I remember one time my daughter came home and she said, my friend says she hates you. Today I was playing with my friend. He said, I hate your mom. And I said, why does she hate me? She said, I don't know. And I asked her, did you ask her why she hates me? She said, I asked her. And so when she said, I hate your mom, I asked her, why do you hate my mom? Why do you hate my mom? And trust me, this is not like, this is not a white girl that you say, that kind of friction that goes on between us. This is a child of color like me, an African child, telling me I hate your mom. And this is a child I've never said a word to before. I've never even said a word to the child's mom before. I don't talk, I've never spoken to them. So for the child to say, I hate you, a child at that age, she was 5 years old, a child of 5 years old saying, I hate your mom. Why would a child like that be hating me? And I always say, if conversations are not going on in the home, a child of that age cannot be talking hate. So it's whatever we give to these children. Those are the things we see out. Now, when you go out, there's a lot of stabbing going on in parts of landing, stabbing. Most of these children doing that. Trust me, when you dig further down, you see that they were raised by a single parent. They didn't have a father figure in the home. They didn't have anything to look up to. And most of these boys, you realize they have behavioral problems because of some of these things. And we take light of it. But then if we don't want to see it, we have to do something about it. I believe that single parenthood is becoming the norm of the day. And I don't know if some of the men take pleasure in making these women single moms, but we should know that we are building a chaotic community. We are building a chaotic nation, a chaotic country, whatever, because we are not leaving these children alone for them to try and shape up their thinking and be proper gentlemen and ladies when they grow up, when they've not had a proper, what should I say, a proper model to look at. They've not had a proper mentor from anybody else. So it's beholding on us all, not just the women, it's beholding on us all. And all around the world, prices have gone high. Moms will have to go out and work double shifts to pay bills. And obviously, you can't blame them. They cannot be playing all the roles at the same time. So, well, fathers are important, but at times, better none than a thug or drug addict. I totally agree with you, but how did that father become a thug or a drug addict? How did that father? He had also come from another father who didn't take responsibility and train him well. The village will raise the children. I don't know about that. Ivy. Can somebody give a suggestion? But I know that yes, the village will definitely train the child to some point. And that is in Africa. You can only have that in Africa, because in Africa, I remember back home, when you do something and it's not right, someone else walking along the road can quickly jump in and just shape you up. But not here. From what I know, I live in the UK, so not here in the UK. Nobody is shaping you up. Even when your parents are shaping you up, they are calling the police for you. So nobody is shaping anybody up. You get it? So good if you're in Africa, then the village will help raise a child up. But if you're not in Africa, in other parts of the world, it's difficult. Somebody should chip in from somewhere Because, and I have Ivy on TikTok saying the village will train the child up. True, the communities we form, even here in UK. Yeah. The associations people form. Trust me, for me, I don't form any association here in the UK, because I think that is another conversation on its own. But I can totally and confidently say that the associations in the UK is very, very chaotic. And I believe that is too much pressure. I think life is difficult for me to be adding those kind of pressure on top of my head. So I don't form associations in the UK. I remember the last time I was talking to another lady of mine, and I was telling her that when I had my son, when I had my firstborn, I didn't know how to carry a child. Sorry, I didn't know how to carry a baby, let alone give them a wash. So if my child grows up and he's smelly, then it is my own fault, because then it means I didn't give them a proper wash. But I've had to learn how to do all of these things on my own. I've had to read, I've had to listen to stories, people's stories. I've had to try and do right by them. And most of the time, I think this may sound a bit insane, but I would say that I've been led to do most of these things by the help of the Holy Spirit. I don't know how I do it, but I just pray about it. And I find myself doing certain things, not just taking care of my children, everything else I've had to learn growing up. Because remember, I had said earlier on that I lived a shielded life growing up, and I've had to learn the ropes as I went along. I've made a lot of mistakes that would have cost my life growing up, because some of these things, like thinking that if I've not done anything bad to anybody, nobody should be doing anything bad to me. So those are the things I had grown up to think, let alone grow up and realize that it is when you're not doing anything wrong with people, that is when they're coming at you. I know of a family where the husband left the woman, is uneducated. So the children go to the education skills from a friend's house, and all are going well. Great. I believe you, Ivy, but this may be 1 out of a million. Believe me, 1 out of a million is when the man will live and then the children will be going elsewhere because the woman is not educated, and all will be going well. This would maybe 1 out of a million case. And I'm happy to hear some of these stories to show that even though the situation is still going on with a single parenthood kind of thing, we are still looking for a way around it to help and raise these children in the right way. But then, of course, I'm seeing somebody trying to come on board. I'm going to try and bring him in, and hopefully he's going to be sharing our story with us. But if not, hi, Frisky. I don't know if you are in tune with what we are here to discuss, but I've brought you on board because we are talking about fathers in the home. If that is something you want to chip in and talk about your experience with your father, then we'll be happy to hear from you. But if not, then we are very sorry. I don't know why you would like to join the chat this time. So you've asked that you come on board. We are talking about fathers in the home and the importance of fathers. Is there something you'd like to talk about?
No, I can't say anything right now. You can mute me because I'm working out.
Okay, so can you go off then, please? Thank you very much, because I don't know how to take you off. So can you just exit? Is it possible to exit? Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, so basically that is it. I totally agree with you, Ivy. I totally agree with you that most of these children will turn out right. Most of these children will turn out right, but a good number of them may not also turn out right, because some of these children are strong-headed, and they definitely need a father figure in the home. They definitely need a father figure in the home. I hope you agree. Some of these children cannot be raised by women alone. But I know my son cannot be raised by me alone, because my son is strong-headed. He needs his father to be able to tell him some of these things. But there are a few cases where you may have some of these children who totally listen to their moms and will do what their moms say and will not have to argue. Why do I have to do that? And that kind of thing. So yeah, if you have a child like that, then it'll be very easy to raise your child up without a father figure in the home. But if not, then it'll be difficult to do that as well. And I remember, I think not too long ago, the lady I'd interviewed on Podcast with Sheila, that is called Farah, had said that she had to teach her son how to dry shave, Because if the father is at home, he will be the one teaching the child how to drive safe. But thank God today, all of these things can be found on social media. You can definitely just type in how to drive safe and then you learn it from social media. But what if whatever you're looking for to teach your son is not on social media? Obviously, like you said, we are going to have to rely on a neighbor or on someone else to help us do this, like helping your son tie his neck for his necktie for the first time as a woman. If you don't know how to do it, then you're going to be having to rely on your neighbor who is a man. But if not, then you're also going to have to learn from YouTube. I understand what you are saying. As studies say, most criminals come from broken families. Trust me. I don't know where you live. Ivy, do you live in the UK? Because if you live in the UK, you might have heard that most of the children who do the stabbing around UK are from broken homes. Most of these children. And unfortunately, most of these children happen to be children from our community. And Leeds, yeah, definitely. Then you know that most of these children come from broken homes. And it is no fault of theirs. I always say there's something definitely wrong mentally. They are having mental issues. And it's because their father is not at home. Trust me. Children who have both parents at home, for some reason, come out very well. Or for some reason, they don't have attitudinal problems, if I'm saying it right. Oh, you lived in London more than 10 years, then you'd probably have an experience of what London is like, especially with some of these children going up all over the place. For me, I had my father at home, and there were so many things I wouldn't do because the kind of father I had was a very, very strict dad. And there were so many things I would dare not do because I'm even scared to see him and what he will say to you. And my father wouldn't talk much. The kind of words that will come out of his mouth to you, that alone is enough for you to know that, hey, you've gone off. You've gone off, totally off, and you have to come back onto the right track. And because you don't want to be having those kind of conversations with him, you wouldn't do it. And those are the kind of things that puts you on the straight and narrow. You get what I mean? So I would say that for us women, the world has become a place where you would have to strategize to live a life that will not only benefit you, but if you have children, benefit your children as well, and not just you. So if you're in a marriage, this is what I am saying. It may not be for everybody, but if you're in a marriage and for some reason it's not going well, but the man is not abusing you to the point of death, you know what I mean? Like your life is not at risk. I think you should just manage it. I once babysat a friend's child in London and saw them on YouTube Crime Watch after knifing someone. Can you imagine? I think the domestic violence in the home contributed to him becoming this. Trust me. Because there is so much going on, and there's a lot going on, and there'll be more going on, especially these times, because you're living in difficult times. And when you go deeper, what may be causing all of the rifts and rafts in the home boils down to money. Because when there's no money in the home and you're having to think of how to pay bills, how to do this, the stress alone puts you in an uneasy situation, and parents tend to clash a lot on grounds like these. Sometimes we forget that the children are watching. Most of the times we forget that the children are watching. I think I had interviewed one woman recently. Today I had done a replay of that episode. And this woman, she said that when she was growing up, her parents abandoned her. And she had shared a story on Podcast with Sheila. I think she's one of she's one of the initial guests I'd interviewed on Podcast with Sheila. She had shared her story on how her parents had abandoned her. And she had talked about the kind of fights that will go on in the house or even in the car whilst they are driving to town or something with both parents in the house. She told me that the last one she experienced before her parents finally broke up was a fight in the car. She said all that she saw was blood oozing out from her mom's face. Sometimes we do some of these things and we can't put ourselves in check, and we forget that the children are watching. We totally forget, because that is what anger does to all of us. We forget that the children are watching. Anger takes us through a road where we forget to check ourselves before we realize we've just caused harm. So she said the mom's face all bloody. Then they ended up at their grandmom's place. So that happens to be her mom's place. And that was where her father dropped her, and that was it. The next thing she saw, the father had come to pick, I think she said a week or 2 weeks after, the father had just come to pick her up from home and dropped her off at her aunt's, which happens to be her father's sister. So that woman raised her up, and the father had gone off to marry another woman to start a new family. I don't know if at this point, I forgot to ask her if the new family her dad went to start was working, because sometimes they may think that this family is not working, I'm going to start another one. But you may also be causing harm there, because you're going to have children, and if you're not doing right by them, you'll be repeating the cycle. I think the domestic violence in the home contributed to, okay, I've read that one. Yeah. And we forget that this kind of thing going on is becoming a repeated cycle. We are beginning to raise a generation of abusers who will grow up to become fathers and can't give any proper mentoring to the young children who will be growing up. Oh my God. So it becomes a repetition of things. And I think that at some point it has to come to an end. Everybody, all of us would have to put our lives in check and know where we're going wrong and what we can do to make it right. That kind of thing. And it beholds on all of us, because if I am abusive, my children are watching. It will take a child with a totally different outlook of life not to want to be like their father or like their mother, if their father and mother are not good examples to them. But then most of these children who have grown out of abusive families will definitely turn out being abusers. Definitely. So it's a shame what is going on in the world today. But for me, I think that we all have a duty to try and make it right wherever we find ourselves. We have to. I think at this point I've spoken at length. If anyone has something else to chip in. Thank you very much, Ivy, for the love and your support. Thank you very much for your time. I see, it's just a name, but I see a Sean. I can't mention your first name on Instagram. Thank you very much for joining me. Nanel Mills also joined in on Instagram. And then I think Macau, if I'm right, also joined in on Instagram. Thank you very much. I see people coming in and out on our TikTok page. So thank you very much, everybody who's coming and joined, and all the love that is going out on this platform. Thank you very, very much. Instagram is a bit quiet, but I'll be happy to read out your suggestions, your contributions, if you type them out now. If there's anything anybody would like to chip in concerning fathers staying in the home and concerning mothers trying to meet these fathers halfway, if only the relationship is not a toxic one, I think we should just let the men be and try, for the sake of the children, until at a point where we are sure that these children's life, had been properly shaped. I think we should just try and enjoy it if we can. This is my suggestion, and this is something I'll definitely do. If that relationship is not killing me, I can just close my eye and, for the sake of the children, just live through it, raise these children and have their father at home to support me. Of course, the bills are too expensive. And even if I can pay it, I don't want to pay it all alone. I would want him to be there to take part of his responsibility, because making children is not just a woman's job. It takes two to tango. So once the child is here, I think that everybody should do their part and help raise these children, so that together we can have a decent community. Together we can build children with a better generation. Else, I fear what the generation is going to be like going forward. I think not too long ago, on one of the trams, it said that somebody was stabbed here in Nottingham. Somebody was stabbed on the tram. And Nottingham is such that it's not a big town, so you can drive around. But there are places where you wouldn't like to pay parking charges, so you definitely like to do park and ride, unless you definitely want to be driving around. There are places that you definitely just want to do park and ride. So if the trams are not safe, then what else? Especially when we are trying to grow a green environment. We are trying to tell people not to drive everywhere, but try and use the tram for the sake of pollution and all of these. But if the trams are not safe anymore, nobody wants to go on the trams. And it's going to make life difficult, life expensive. All of these things needs to be taken into consideration. But it all boils down to the children we are bringing up. My mother had me whilst still in a relationship with my stepdad. My stepdad used me to keep her. It was a life full of violence. I remember an axe. I can't read it well, but I'm going to try to. I remember an axe, one to break down an indoor door. Oh, was an axe used to break a door in the house? So I'm not in for people staying together. I totally agree with you. Everybody's situation is different. Like I said, from what you just narrated, your mom's life was definitely at risk, and so was yours. Because in the case where an axe is coming up, or a knife is coming up, or a gun is coming up, those kind of weapons and all, yes, we thought it was murder that day. Obviously, because reading this alone on this side, I'm even scared already. See knife and axe and whilst I was reading your message, I remember another replay I had done today of another woman who had also gone through an abusive marriage, and she said she had left. And I think that after I'd done interviewing her, I'd asked her, so what would your advice be to anybody in an abusive relationship? And she said, my advice would be to leave. Immediately leave, or make arrangements to leave. And she had said that the reason why I'm saying make arrangement, okay, let me read your message before I carry on. She said, at 6 years, she left me with my stepfather. He looked after me well. Great. Then what happened from there with acts and all of that? Wow, I'll be happy to read this, Ivy. I'll be happy to know why your stepfather had changed from being a good father to picking an axe, because from what you've just written, you said at 6 years, your mom had left you with your stepfather and he took very good care of you. Oh, she left the home. Wow. Ivy, do you think you'll be able to share your story? Should I bring you on? I'll be happy to bring you on, Ivy, if you want me to bring you on so that we can listen to this story. Oh, you're going to work. Oh, that's a shame. But thank you very much, though. Thank you very much, because I think that you've been here with me since I started. Thank you very much. I'm going to see if I'm following you. If I'm not, I'm going to follow you now. I think I'm following you. I think so, because clicking on your thing, it looks like I'm following you. But then thank you very much, Ivy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I totally agree with you from what you're saying. That kind of relationship is a very toxic one, with acts coming up out of it. Axe, knife, all of those things is a very, very toxic one. And for that, I would say that exit. That's why I'd emphasize that if the relationship isn't one that will kill you, you don't see it as a toxic one. If it's that one that you think you can just deal with, then yeah. But if it's not, then I think that you have to exit as quickly as possible and not even take chances at all. But all I'm saying, not all stepdads do badly though. Their intentions might be weird. It's true. It's so true. That's another thing, That's another thing with stepdads. Is another thing. Is another thing with stepdads. Is another thing. Anyway, so like I was saying, this lady had said that for her advice would be exit the relationship as quickly as possible. But if you have children in the relationship, she would advise that you try to prepare yourself before you leave, because remember, if you leave, you're going to be burdened with the responsibility of taking care of the children yourself. You definitely need to rent a place. If you don't have a car, you have to get a car, because for her, when she married her husband had taken her to his home. So every time they had an argument, it was like, get out of my house. That is what the man would say, get out of my house, get out of my house. So when she decided to exit the marriage, her idea was either to make the house our house, such that when there was any problem there, they were going to give the house to her. So either make the house our house or make it her house before she finally cuts the man off, and then also try and get a proper car that will help her, because she had 5 children. So to be able to take them to school, to move them around, to shop and all of that, and they were little children at that time, she needed to be able to be mobile. So make sure she had a car as well, and obviously started training herself for a job. So when she had all of that in place, then she exited. So yeah, that is another thing to do. But I always say that sometimes we have to prepare ourselves before we leave, because when we quickly move, especially when we are in a relationship, when we are not working, and I always tell the women I work with, or I always say on every platform that I find myself, that is important for every woman to have a little money of their own, because you don't know when a crisis is going to happen. So it's good to marry a rich man, and then he tell you, oh, don't do anything, don't work, just stay at home and take care of the children. That's nice. Every woman would like to live like that, especially when they're giving you money all the time. Let me read Ivy's comment now. But all I'm saying is, okay, yeah, I think it's the same one I've read already. It had moved up and I thought you had written something else. So what I'm saying is that it's great for all of us to make money of our own, And another thing I realize is, when you make your own money, the husband respects you, and there's a limit to what they tell you. And they are very careful in their dealings with you, because then they know that you're a woman of power. I hope I put it right, but that is not to say you're using your money to lord of your husband. That is not it at all. But when anybody realizes that you have financial stability, or you are a woman of yourself and you're not 100% dependent on them, then they are very careful with their words, their actions, and all of these help. But when we leave everything to the man to take care of, and not even do anything little to help ourselves, then it becomes very, very difficult sometimes when we find ourselves in some of these situations. And the women tend to suffer a lot, especially when the children are left in our care and we don't even know what to do. Because some of these men, when they leave, they don't look back. They don't care whether you're going to live, whether you're going to sleep, what you're going to wear. They can't be bothered. Once they pick their bags, they're gone. And you're going to figure out how to do all of these by yourselves. If you find yourself in a place like Africa, where you don't have support anywhere, you're going to struggle a lot. But when you find yourself in some of these foreign countries where there's support for things like this, then it makes it a bit easier. But even with that, it wouldn't be all easy, because some of these supports will not be enough to support your children and yourself. So at all the time, what I find myself telling my followers and people who listen to me on every platform that I've been on, and when I'm talking to women, is that it's important for every woman to have a little money of their own. And that is the only way it makes our life easy. And I think that social media today has presented various ways of making money, by starting a YouTube channel, by talking. If you are the type who likes to talk like me, I can talk the whole day and never, ever even bat an eye or even pause. My mom will say, take time and breathe. She says that all the time. So yeah, you just explore what you are good at, and then you just make a business out of it. You can make a business out of anything these days. You don't have to go and work for somebody. So if you're a stay-home mom, you don't have to go and work for somebody, but at least look for ways of bringing in some little income, building up your account. So for a rainy day, just in case something comes up, you definitely will be able to cushion yourself and you will not be found wanting. So, oh my God, thank you so much for the 10-15 roses, Ivy. Thank you so much for your support. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. I'll be happy for us to do this again. Hopefully the children are on holiday, I'm on break, and I'll be happy for us to do this for as long as the summer break is on, every night at 6 p.m. I'll be happy for you to join me if you can, either 6 or 7 when I come up, but I'll try and share the live. I've really enjoyed my time here today on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And as we wrap up, I'd like to say that Podcast with Sheila is a podcast that is spreading positivity around the world by sharing inspiring life experiences. So we bring people on board for them to share with us their stories. Pardon me, my window is getting in my face, the light from my window, but to bring people on board to share with us their stories and how they've dealt with the challenges they've been through over the years. It started in 2020 during COVID. We've been running till date, and I've been able to interview or host 88 guests around the world. I've hosted guests from the UK here, guests from the United States, from Canada, from Ireland, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Uganda, Zimbabwe, from India, from Dubai. My God, it's a lot all over the world. And I'm privileged to be able to do this. And I believe that together, you and I will make the world a better place. So if you don't know about Podcast with Sheila, I will urge you now to look for us on social media. We are all over social media. You can find us somewhere. Look for us and follow us. Don't forget to hit on the subscribe button just so that you'll be notified anytime a new video comes up. And together, you and I will be able to make the world a better place. If you'd like to share your story as well, please get in touch with me. I think there's a link around the video somewhere you can send your story to. You just send me a brief of your story. I'll read it. If I think it's encouraging enough and it's something we can do, I'll book a recording time with you, and we'll be able to record your videos and air it to educate people, empower people, and inspire people as well. Thank you very much for your time. And at this point, I'm going to love you and leave you all and say that take care and meet you again. Bye.